Hey guys, do you want to share cases or no?
Um, I prefer if we didn't, but if you want to,
Yeah, I think it would be better because we've had a lot of rounds where we had to ask for a lot of cards and it took like 20 minutes. We'll
oh,
set cases also.
we have all of our cards separate. I mean, it shouldn't take that long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
All right, sure.
yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm sending out the email chain now. Last call if you want to get your emails on the chain. All right, I just sent the chain out. Let me know if it's working, and then I'm ready to start.
Yeah, I got the email.
Yeah, I did too.
All right, good.
Are you mavericking or is your partner here?
Oh no, I'm here. I just need to grab some water really quick. Sorry.
Yeah, it's right there.
Oh, okay.
We'll be using the same camera.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Judges, as a quick introduction, it's nice to meet everyone. I'm Ansh Gupta. I'm part of Team USA West. My partner is Ayan Sharma. He will be first speaker for us, and we're on neg and we're going first.
Yep. Uh, if everyone's ready, just give me a quick thumbs up. All right. Then, seeing everyone's ready, I'll begin on my first word. Hi, judges. My name is Ayan Sharma, and my partner and I strongly negate today's resolution. Resolved, the United States federal government should enact a moratorium on hyperscale data center construction. Our first contention is placing a moratorium eliminates the massive opportunity of saving lives through accelerating scientific discovery. The Government Accountability Office finds that developing a single drug normally takes 10 to 15 years and $600 million to $1.4 billion, while only 1 in 10,000 compounds tested ultimately reach FDA approval. AI can dramatically accelerate this pipeline by screening compounds, identifying promising drug candidates, and analyzing massive data sets. But by how much? A 2023 BCG analysis found that AI could produce at least 25 to 50% time and cost savings in drug discovery. A 2026 Nature's Communication paper estimates that AI-enabled advances could potentially reduce the overall drug development timeline from 12 to 15 years to just 3 to 4. Research from PMC estimates that each year removed from drug development time could save a median of 79,920 lives worldwide per drug. Judge, the question isn't whether data centers consume resources, it's whether we should deliberately restrict the infrastructure that enables scientists to discover treatments faster. Second, placing a moratorium on hyperscale data center construction risks losing AI technological progress in the US. AI is far more than just an industry. It's a general purpose technology capable of increasing productivity across fields like manufacturing, science, finance, and defense. Thus, global AI investment is rapidly increasing. Joseph Briggs of Goldman Sachs Research writes on August 7, 2026, that global AI investment will exceed $1 trillion internationally and just under $600 billion in the US. The DOE stated that on July 29th that a new $100 billion data center project was announced in Kentucky, which would spur the creation of over 8,000 new construction jobs and 600 permanent ones. That's just one data center out of the hundreds planned on being built. A moratorium prevents those jobs from being built domestically and instead incentivizes future projects to be built elsewhere. It simply forces companies to shift all data center construction to foreign countries. Foreign powers like China are already aiming to build their own data centers to accelerate AI progress. The Bloomberg states that China has invested $295 billion to build a nationwide network of data centers. Thus, a US moratorium on data center development doesn't stop demand, it simply changes where they can be built. The job creation and support for local economies because of data centers isn't just hypothetical. XAI stated that it directly created 3,000 permanent full-time jobs in the 2 years since Colossus 2. Most importantly, these benefits are disproportionately going to rural America. Pew Research finds that 67% of planned data centers are located in rural areas, with 39% planned for counties that currently have none. For rural communities that struggle to attract major employers and investment, data centers provide a rare source of new jobs, tax revenue, and infrastructure. Cushman Wakefield writes that every 100 megawatts of AI data centers constructed provides nearly 1,300 permanent jobs and over $187 million in regional products to support local economies. Therefore, if this resolution passes, it won't be tech billionaires in Silicon Valley who bear the brunt of the impact. It'll be rural Americans who lose out on jobs, investment, and economic opportunities. That's why I'm proud to negate today.
Good speech. Uh, my name's Neil Anija. That's not the case, right? I'm a little bit laggy right now. Oh, awesome, cool. You guys can see me. My name's Neil Anija. I'm gonna be representing Team USA East. I'm Newton North. I'll be the first speaker on the AF. My time is gonna start on my first word. Today's debate isn't about if all data centers are good or bad. It is simply a question of whether or not we should take a break from constructing giant hyperscaled ones. The Institute of Self-Reliance in May reveals that hyperscalers are not a solution to public need. Corporations could build ordinary data centers or develop infrastructure on pre-existing ones. Sadly, these corporations use hyperscalers instead to consolidate monopoly power at the expense of everyday citizens. Thus, Ethan and I affirm our sole contention is protecting the general public with three key points. Our first focus is rising costs. When corporations build hyperscalers, they may cover the upfront expenses, but costs are ultimately passed on to the local region. The damage is extremely evident. Economist Kay at the Federal Reserve calculates that new data centers have disrupted the decades long trend of energy stability. Instead, prices across the nation have spiked 5% and projections up to 50% if construction continues. Prices also spike without warning. Tipton 25 reveals that in 1 month, $12.6 billion of maintenance fees were paid by 65 million customers, evening out to an additional $200 per person. Luckily, the affirmative fixes the issue. Not only do moratoriums stop construction for years, but also force companies to not increase costs, even after its effect. Currently, every moratorium bill in Congress has these requirements. Professor Shear of UNC warns that energy inequality is a dire and growing problem. 55 million people already experience energy poverty, and every year, 5 million more join them. Ultimately, this transforms into generational poverty. Our second focus is water usage. The Guardian in June predicts that two-thirds of upcoming data centers will be on lands that are already the driest in the country, taking water from people who cannot afford it. 60% of the country is already at risk of drought. Recycling water will not solve the issue. Data center water evaporates fast, meaning new water is constantly required. The initial load of water is so immense that it hurts communities just the same. The World Resources Institute terminalizes that by 2028, hyperscalers could take away water from nearly 1 million people. A moratorium may be the only chance to stop this trend. Senate bills also force data companies to meet a strict water usage quota with constant oversight. This safety net is kept in place after the moratorium ends too. Our third focus is going to be air pollution. Big tech likes to paint a picture that their data centers are becoming more and more sustainable. However, this is far from the truth. Director Newman of the American Environmental Center reveals that companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google will use diesel generators for their new wave of hyperscalers, as renewables and traditional energy grids are too costly. It's not just a few diesel plants either. Wilden 26 of NYU calculates that roughly 600 hyperscalers with diesel power are in pre construction, set to complete by 2030. Time is running out. The problem with diesel is its emissions. NOx and PM, which are two pollutants known to cause lung disease and even cancer. Even worse, Harvard research warns that there is no safe limit. Inhaling just a tiny bit may be fatal. That means anyone living in a near data center is at risk. This is exactly why a moratorium is necessary. When hyperscale construction stops, so does diesel construction. There are currently no laws requiring diesel generators to be safe, meaning there's no other solution. The Energy Study Institute terminalizes that over 100,000 people already die each year from fossil fuel plants. The issue will become exponentially worse. New hyperscaler constructing is set to impact 14 million people, putting them all in danger. For all the reasons above, we couldn't be prouder to affirm.
All right. Are you guys ready for cross X?
Absolutely. Cross X or first cross?
Yeah, questioning. Are you ready?
Yeah. I'll start time now. You may take the first question.
All right. Thank you. So, if AI data centers are increasingly building power plants, how exactly is energy dependency an issue?
Oh, we're not saying energy
No,
dependency
we're
is an
saying
issue. They're
like,
they're
sorry, could
using
I
diesel
reframe my question?
generators. Yeah, you can reframe
Yeah,
your
sorry.
question if you'd like.
You said in your contention that because like local people are being forced to pay for the energy, because of data centers using it, but if they're building their own diesel generators, how is that a concern?
Yeah, absolutely. So diesel generators just mean that they feed into the grid. The general public is responsible for paying energy costs. Think of Eversource. So even though now they're diesel generators, which are harmful, and then the second part is those costs are then reflected back on the consumer. You should be as concerned as you are about those rural citizens, right? Those are the people who are being affected, right? These
But
people are now having to bear the cost of their own death. It's insane. I agree. If I may take a
yeah,
question,
sure.
thank you. Um, just to clarify, you mentioned scientific discovery in your second contention also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So would you say
No,
that
in our
those two
first
things?
contention, sorry.
Yeah, but you say it in your first contention, then in your second contention, you says that losing AI hurts science plus finance plus defense. You
No, I
mentioned
was
science
just
in there.
mentioning how AI is a general purpose technology. That was kind of
General
like,
purpose technology,
yes,
and that includes scientific discovery. That's what
yes,
you said,
yes.
scientific. So wouldn't those play into the end outputs of your second contention?
Uh, how? Wait, could you like, what is
Well,
your
you
question?
mentioned
Could you
so
like,
part of your link in your second contention is three parts, right? Science, finance, and defense, right?
no,
If
my
science is
second
already
contention,
incorporated, could I just finish?
yeah.
Um, if science is already incorporated in those three, wouldn't scientific discovery not really be its own unique contention, rather a
No,
subpoint of your second?
let me clarify. My second contention basically states that investment in AI is increasing because it's such a useful technology. And because investment is increasing, just because we put a moratorium in the US doesn't stop construction because demand is still there. That construction simply moves to other countries and it offshores. So all the concerns you talk about pollution, that simply happens outside of the US.
Right.
Like
So if I could ask, you're talking about offshoring, right? That's taking the strain off of the American public, right? But
and
then
it's
that
just
ends up
placing that strain on other constituents overseas. It doesn't solve any of your concerns.
I see what you're saying. I think we're going to respond to that in rebuttal. Do you have any other questions?
Uh, yeah. So about the energy grid, if the US is already expanding it, how is that a concern? How is it like increasing prices for Americans?
Yeah, I thought I'd respond to this. So the diesel generators are constructed, which is the cost of the company. They have to create the energy source. But then because it's filed with the government, it then becomes a general energy source for the general public to fund. So basically, how energy works in the United States is large companies can build their own energy, but then they output those costs onto the public because they're being serviced by them. Little do they know, fatal things are being
So
released into the atmosphere.
so why is it mutually exclusive to why do we need to ban the construction of data centers instead of just putting restrictions on like on data centers and the type of energy they're using?
Yeah,
It's
so
not necessary to compete
time's
in
over,
advance.
but I am gonna quickly respond to this just because it was asked. Basically the part is that these bills just simply aren't passed, they haven't been passed, but every single moratorium bill in the US, which means that we have that probability, has those conditions on it to help the environment. So that's why we propose the moratorium. Are you guys taking prep for rebuttal?
No, we're good. All right, if everyone's ready, perfect. Time will start with my first word. Hello, judges. My name is Ansh Gupta, and I'll be refuting my opponent's argument. First, they talk about AI hyperscale data construction and how we don't need hyperscale data centers, just regular ones are already built. I like to begin why hyperscale AI data centers are necessary. Empirical evidence demonstrates that expanding hyperscale data center capacity is one of the factors driving increases in AI output. A 2026 Bank of Canada study finds that US raw AI compute capacity grew over 200% annually in 2024 and 2025, while quality adjusted AI output grew over 2,000% annually because of hyperscale data centers. The author identified expanding hyperscale data center capacity alongside chip efficiency and algorithmic process as the driving forces that drive that growth. Thus, more hyperscale data center construction will optimize AI models and save more lives. OpenAI's April 2026 infrastructure announcement explicitly says compute is the critical input that makes advanced AI possible. They say that additional compute allows them to train better models, serve them more reliably, improve performance, and lower costs over time, and that increasing compute capacity is necessary to meet growing demand. The app says that companies can simply use ordinary data centers instead of hyperscale facilities, but that misunderstands how frontier AI works. Training and running investments require thousands of GPUs operating together with extremely high speed interconnects. Hyperscale AI facilities are specifically engineered for this level of power density, cooling, and networking. A collection of ordinary data centers cannot substitute for one tightly integrated AI cluster because distributing the workload introduces networking and latency constraints. Therefore, if the US wants to remain competitive in frontier AI, hyperscale infrastructure isn't optional. It's the infrastructure that allows these massive computing clusters to function. That app frames data center water consumption as if every hyperscale facility requires enormous amounts of fresh water, but that ignores how rapidly cooling efficiency is improving. Microsoft reports that its FY 2025 global data centers achieved a water usage effectiveness of just 0.27 liters per kilowatt, down from zero point 0.3 to the last year. Even more importantly, Microsoft's newest AI optimized designs use zero water for cooling through closed loop chip level cooling. Microsoft estimates this design can avoid more than 125 million liters of water per year per data center. Amazon reports an even lower 0.12 liter per kilowatt in 2025, more than 7 times more water efficient than its reported industry average of 0.84. Amazon also says its data centers use free air cooling roughly 90% of the time. The app therefore makes a critical mistake. They treat today's water intensity as fixed when hyperscale operators are actively engineering it downward. I'd like to move on to another key problem, the world air pollution. Yes, data centers pollute the earth. The International Energy Agency estimates that data centers currently produce about 180 million tons of indirect CO2 emissions annually, which is around 0.5% of global combustion emissions. But here's the important part, the potential benefits of AI are larger than the emissions from data centers themselves. Widespread adoption of existing AI applications could reduce global emissions by 1.4 gigatons of CO2 in 2035. That would equal roughly 5% of energy related emissions that year. Importantly, the IE says that this does not include future breakthroughs of AI. So the potential emissions reductions are about 4.7 times larger than data center emissions. And by the way, if we place a moratorium in the US, companies will go offshore, as my partner talked about, to other countries where there are better regulations and invoke the same impacts that our opponents talk about. For all these reasons, I'm proud to negate. Thank you.
Alrighty. I think we're gonna start some prep. That's gonna start once in 3, 2, Alrighty, that was a minute. Just writing our time down. All right.
Everyone ready? All right. I'm Ethan speaking second for the AF. It's gonna start on their rebuttal and then go to their case. All right. Time starts in three, two, one. At the top of their rebuttal, they try to explain to you why hyperscalers are necessary for AI. However, our evidence at the top of case, the Institute of Self-Reliance from just 3 months ago, find that hyperscalers are no longer a requirement for public assistance. Instead, companies are using hyperscalers to beat each other. They're trying to gain monopoly power in order to hold the market to themselves and have as much profit flow to them. Our evidence specifically analyzes that ordinary data centers would do the trick. And in fact, these hyperscalers that companies try to push, it's basically propaganda. They just want you to continue investing so that they can beat out their competitors and take over the market. Then, we would love to tell you that they have dropped the energy prices in its totality. Why is this important? Is because it completely outweighs their evidence and their argument about job creation. Think about it. If you get a job, sure, your wages might increase, but if your electricity prices are far outweighing your wages increase, that just means you're getting thrown under the poverty line more and more. Don't let them try to convince you that these energy prices are not a big deal. They have clearly conceded this in their rebuttal. We will be extending this forward, and this is going to help us outweigh them in terms of the rural and lower class argument. Then, let's go to water. They say that cooling efficiency is improving, but we've told you that cooling is not a viable solution because when you cool, the water usage is still being evaporated, it's still being dirtied, and is still being evaporated, so which normal people and animals cannot have it. And also, the initial load, which they have conceded, is still so massive that even if cooling is effective, the initial load is still taking water out of areas that are already the driest in the country. Meaning, even if cooling is efficient, it doesn't matter because countries or counties are already in drought. Then, on the diesel contention, they have completely misunderstood it. Our argument is not about CO2 at all. That's climate change. We're focused on air pollution and carcinogenic particles such as PM and NOx. So our focus is not entirely on global emissions. It's in fact much more deadly and takes effect nearly immediately. Because as soon as you inhale any NOx or PM, you're going to, your lungs and your throat may start hurting and you're going to lose control over your own bodily functions. Then, let's go over their argument of AI creating drugs. First, nowhere in their case have they said hyperscalers are necessary. Either way, we can just collaborate with other countries that are particularly using their AI for good. They're using their AI actually to create solutions instead of using it to try to control a monopoly. Second, there is no urgency. They have not told you when the next big pandemic, the next disease is going to occur. Meanwhile, our side about electricity prices and air pollution, these are issues that are going to be happening by 2030, which means you have to affirm. Then, they said that 29,000 people are going to be helped per drug. But remember, today's debate isn't about a perfect solution, but rather cost benefit analysis. We've told you that 55 million people are going to be affected by air pollution, which means that you outweigh here. Then, let's move on to the second subpoint of the tech race. They begin by showing us how important AI is for the economy. However, we have to ask ourselves, is this really a good thing? Because there's an AI bubble specifically because there's too much hype and overinvestment, and maybe it's not a good thing to keep inflating the industry. And also, data centers are not a good job generator. Stratford 24. A data center employs only 50 to 200 full-time workers, and headcount is low by design. Next, offshoring is undesirable for companies, as Four Corners 24 reveals that offshoring means less control over your operations, small delays turn into massive backlogs, and public image concerns. Think about it. If you were a CEO, would you rather wait a few years and you already have a new wave of data centers, or move your entire operation overseas? Judge, today's debate is about the lower class and rural areas, so ask yourself, which is it more worth it?
Are you ready for cross?
Yep, I'm ready for cross now.
All right. May I have the first question?
Yeah, sure. I'll start time now.
All right, perfect. You talk about offshoring and you say that it's less ideal for companies to move to other countries because of like how good it is in the US or
Yeah.
right. So if we place a moratorium in the US, they would have companies would have no choice but to offshore to other countries. So your evidence card assumes that there is no moratorium placed in the US and that like constructing data centers or hyperscale data centers in the US still stands.
Yeah,
Let's
I
talk
understand
about a
your point,
moratorium.
but there is actually another solution. This is not something that, companies don't have just this dead end of either we build hyperscalers here or we build hyperscalers outside of the US. In
Right.
fact, it is more profitable as our evidence concludes that it's probably more profitable if they just wait out the moratorium and expand
No.
infrastructure on
Okay.
pre-existing. Wait, could I please finish?
Yeah, you
They
may,
could
but
build smaller data centers like I talked about, which is fully in their capability. They can construct on pre-existing infrastructure. They can
right.
just wait it out because realistically it's only 2 to 3 years. Meanwhile, if you have to ship your entire operation overseas, that takes quite a long time, a lot of
Well,
manpower. You are losing a lot of money with not much gain.
what can I get a response real quick? You're
Uh,
misunderstanding how frontier AI works. Training, as I explained, training advanced models requires thousands of GPUs, like I said in my rebuttal, which only hyperscale data centers can actually produce, not regular data centers. You prove nowhere that current data centers can actually be sufficient for the types of AI models that we're talking about and the types of models that we need to advance scientific discovery, like we say in our first contention.
yeah, that's
Hyperscale data
exactly.
centers is what's needed for AI models, and my partner and I have proved that in rebuttal.
Yeah. So one response, and then I'll ask my question.
Sure, yeah.
We have made the argument that your evidence is specifically created and endorsed by AI companies. So people want to invest in these big companies. They can build hyperscalers, which they use to try to control the market, which is odd, which is not a good thing. It's not a benevolent thing. They're not actually trying to
That's
save lives. In
that's
fact,
not
they're
true.
trying to gain profit. But could I take a question now?
Yeah, you may, but that's not true. Okay.
I mean, I could say like
You
nothing
could
is.
take, yeah,
Yeah,
you can.
sure.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the job creation, right?
Yeah.
So why is hyperscalers a good job creation if it's specifically designed to keep employees low?
Okay, so first of all, it's not designed to keep employees low. It transforms jobs rather than removes them. And second of all, we have a statistics that show for every 100 megawatts of hyperscale data centers created, 1,300 permanent jobs, not temporary, permanent jobs are created. So for every 100 megawatts, not in total. Okay, so that's around 80,000 to 120,000 permanent jobs on average. We're looking for over the next 4 years.
All right. Well, we don't have that much time left.
Okay,
How's your night?
yeah, that's good. Thanks. Yeah,
All right,
thanks.
that's good.
All right, seeing that questioning's over, I'll be taking running prep. If that's fine with everyone. I'll begin in 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm ready. That was 1 minute and 43 seconds of prep. I'll begin on my first word. This entire debate can be boiled down to just two simple arguments. We on the neg clearly illustrate just how many benefits AI data centers can provide. XAI stated that it directly created 3,000 permanent full-time jobs in the 2 years since Colossus 2. That isn't just the 50 or 200 that the AF claims. Pew Research finds that 67% of planned data centers are located in rural areas, with 39% planned for counties that currently have none. Cushman Wakefield writes that every 100 megawatts of AI data centers constructed provides nearly 1,300 permanent jobs and over $187 million in regional products to support local economies. That isn't a small amount. Rural America has been struggling, and data centers are a lifeline for those communities. Don't punish them because of big tech. At the same time, AI has the capability to make huge advancements in the medicine industry, saving a median of 79,920 lives per drug. Sure, AI's economic benefits might be a little bit overblown, but its medical benefits aren't. Just a small delay in AI progress takes away thousands of lives that could have been saved. That's the biggest impact in this debate: lives over marginal price increases. Whereas on the other side, the AF tells us that AI data centers drain resources such as electricity and water, forcing Americans to stomach the cost. This fails on two fronts. They assume that more data center demand automatically means higher electricity bills, but that's not how electricity pricing works. The UC Berkeley Energy Institute finds that data centers actually lower electricity rates. That's because they spread the grid's fixed costs across more electricity demand in the form of data centers, reducing the amount existing customers have to pay. Thus, prices don't actually increase meaningfully for Americans. Second, they talk about air pollution by diesel generators and water shortages. I agree that's a bad thing, but the fact is that a moratorium by the US federal government only applies to the US. AI is such a massive industry with no signs of investing slowing down. We agree with the AF when they tell us that the US is the best place to build data centers. That's exactly why a moratorium is so deadly. When the US isn't allowed to host data centers, they are shifted abroad. All of the AF's concerns about increased air pollution and water shortages are simply shifted overseas. We win and flip their argument. That's why I'm proud to negate today.
Good speech. I'm going to be taking a little bit of running prep, and that's going to start in three, two, one. Oh, sorry, I didn't mute. I'm not prepping. Once I mute. Alrighty, that's my time. I took a minute. Yeah. I am just going to give a quick off-time roadmap. I'm going to go our case, their responses, our response to those, weighing, and then their case. Time is going to begin on my first word. The focus of today's debate is about ordinary people, not the billionaires of Wall Street. Hyperscalers started as a method of innovation, but are now a weapon of corporate greed that takes away from the most vulnerable. Electricity costs for tens of millions have increased by hundreds every month, throwing families into energy poverty and eventually generational poverty. What they say on this is honestly completely irrelevant, and I'll explain to you why. In debate, it is against the rules to bring up new responses in summary. During first summary, they decided to respond to our electrical prices argument. They did not do this in rebuttal. This is completely unfair and abusive. Either way, I'm going to give you a response. They pumped this corporate propaganda into saying that, oh, it's completely uncorrelated. It's completely uncorrelated. Data center, hyperscale data centers being created and energy prices being brought up. We read you our card throughout the whole case. Right now, I just read it to you. You know that the evidence is on our side. Don't let them trick you. They are genuinely representing corporates right now. Onto the other parts. Hyperscalers use hundreds of millions of gallons of water from local communities that are already struggling. Big tech, further, big tech hides their diesel reactors that will make the air poisonous for 13 million or more people. A moratorium is the perfect solution. It doesn't remove data centers forever, but rather implements the conditions required to solve the three issues and guarantee stability even after the moratorium. On water, the initial load of water taken is simply too much for the rural Americans to bear. They simply can't have more water taken away. We read you that it's actually coming from the places that already are low on water. Our recent evidence shows that the hyperscalers would literally cost 1 million people drinking water, effectively killing them. Without drinking water, how do you possibly survive? On air pollution, we don't talk about CO2, we talk about NOx and PM. These are deadly with even a little bit inhaled. Their evidence specifically refers to CO2, which is climate change and not air pollution. They don't respond to this in summary. Um, which you have to understand, that's not what we're solving for. We're solving for deadly gases. On on electricity into oh sorry. Let's go on to their case. They say that hyperscalers are used to progress AI, but our evidence actually finds that their analysis is literally big corporation propaganda. Large corporations use hyperscalers as a way to push each other out of the market, and they don't let the average American suffer from their corporate greed. On offshoring, there are two major responses. One, companies want to keep their power close. It makes no logical sense for them to spend money developing infrastructure rather than working on pre-existing infrastructure in the US and making their currently built data centers better. Two, public image concerns. Public AI companies cannot feasibly handle the bad PR of offshoring without taking massive losses. It costs them money. It costs them more money than implementing what the moratorium demands. On job creation, our Stratford 26 evidence shows that 50 to 200 jobs are created per hyperscaler, and they use manipulated data showing the best case scenario. Even if you don't buy that, what good are jobs if everyone's poisoned and no one can drink? That's why you should affirm.
Are you guys open for Grand Cross?
Yeah, I'll start time now.
All right, could we have first question? All right, so you tell us about concerns with air pollution and water shortages. We agree, but how does a new moratorium on new construction just in the US solve?
Do you want to hold?
Yeah, no, I can respond to this, right? We will tell you why exactly air pollution in the US is uniquely bad. It's because there are currently no laws stopping diesel generators from polluting NOx and PM. Meanwhile, in other countries, perhaps in Europe, perhaps in like China, for example, they're actively trying to stop CO2, diesel, PM, things like that, right? But we have read you evidence in case there's no other solution, specifically because the US government allows data centers to use these outdated diesel generators that just
Never
spew.
mention anywhere in your case about the EU or China working on better
Yep, that's
diesel
this is my
regulations.
analysis, right? This is
It's
my
purely
analysis.
Yeah,
theoretical.
But
no,
you have but we've
no.
certainly read you evidence that there's no other solution because the US does not implement diesel generator checks.
We
Now
can't
And
can
just
I
wave a
you
blind
can
haven't.
we
eye to
take a
the
question?
water
Wait.
shortages
Yeah,
that
I'm
aren't in the
Sorry.
US.
question.
Yeah.
Alrighty, cool. I would like to touch on the 1 trillion investment, right? So you guys are talking about how there's 1 trillion invested. Could I ask how much money have they gotten back?
I agree. AI hasn't made back all the money that's been invested, but that's because it's a new technology, and we're seeing gains right now, such as Anthropic broke even recently.
And doesn't this contradict your whole argument? Because you're saying that we should fund in existing data centers So your whole plan is to fund
No, we
existing data centers
I
Yeah, that's
understand
of
there's a little bit of a
hyperscale data centers?
misinterpretation. What we
Then you're
say is that
questioning whether AI is
we have
competitive.
money to already fund pre-existing data centers, is what I said.
all right. One
Money
thing
is
I'd like
already
to
there because there
clarify.
is
No,
overinvestment.
you saying we should add on to existing data centers, thus
All right.
investing more money.
I'd
That's
like to clarify
infinitely more
something real
preferable
quick.
than hyperscalers,
Yeah.
is what we're saying.
We've
All right.
proved that it isn't though, with multiple evidence stats. But well, you go.
Yeah, so I'd like to clarify something real quick. You call our card some corporate AI propaganda. It was from UC Berkeley. Just wanted to clear that up. Just like, okay. And then next of all, going on to your point about energy prices rising, is that worth like the thousands of lives that could be lost if we risk losing AI progress?
Well, you're talking about potential lives saved. That's different than lives lost. We talk about actual lives that are going to be lost as a result of hyperscale data centers. That's from our air pollution
Yeah,
and from our water
And
water usage.
we've proved how that doesn't change because of
yeah, simply.
offshoring, and you introduce new evidence relating to offshoring right now, so that's
No,
inadmissible.
this was all taken from rebuttal. I flowed directly off rebuttal during my summary.
Okay,
So
I
if
think
you want to bring up
that's
debate norms, I
cross. Yeah,
completely followed them. Yeah, that is cross. Are you guys going to use the remainder of your prep?
I believe we have 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, we'll just yeah. Let me just get my timer out. All right, the time starts when I mute. Okay, wait, I am ready to go. Let me just get my timer up real quick. If everyone's ready, I'll begin my final focus. Just before I start, I might be speaking a little bit fast. I'll try and be as clear as possible. There's just a lot of points to cover. Um, all right, the time starts with my first word. Hello, judges. My name is Ansh Gupta, and I'll be doing final focus for NEG. This debate comes down to AI's massive benefits versus the AF's resource concerns. First, data centers provide significant economic benefits, especially to rural America. XAI created 3,000 permanent jobs with Colossus 2, while Pew finds 67% of planned data centers are located in rural areas. Cushman and Wakefield estimates every 100 megawatts of AI data center capacity creates nearly 1,300 permanent jobs and $187 million in regional economic output. These facilities provide critical investment to struggling rural communities. More importantly, AI can transform medicine, potentially saving median of 79,000 lives per drug. Even small delays in AI development can cost lives, making this our largest impact. Lives outweigh marginal price increases. The AF claims that data centers drain electricity and water and raises costs, but this fails for two reasons. First, they assume that increased data center demand automatically rises electricity bills. You can't just call a source AI propaganda and wave it off. UC Berkeley's Energy Institute finds that data centers can actually lower electricity rates by spreading fixed grid costs across greater electricity demand. Second, even if the app proves resource concerns, a US moratorium doesn't eliminate global AI demand. Companies will simply move construction overseas, shifting the environmental and resource impacts abroad while while America loses jobs, investment, and AI development. The moratorium doesn't solve the problem, it exports it while sacrificing America's benefits. That's the problem with their case. Their impacts are domestic. They haven't proved why companies can't just offshore to other countries and cause the same problems. Let's weigh. We agree with that. This debate is about the common people. That's why you should vote neg. The negation protects the jobs of rural Americans, maintains the ability to save thousands of lives through expedited drug discovery. At the same time, their impacts of air pollution and water shortage never come to fruition. They turn a blind eye to the effects internationally. That's why we are proud to negate. Thank you so much.
Great last speech. We used a minute of our prep. Oh wait, no, we used 2 minutes, didn't we? So we have a minute left. Um, that's gonna start once I mute. Ready. All right. All right. So it's gonna go just crystallizing the round. All right. Time will start in three, two, one. Judges, there have been a lot of disputes over key points in the round, but can all be summarized in three parts. First, do we really need hyperscalers? Actually, do we need data centers for just the next 2 or 3 years? The answer comes from accredited evidence from just 3 months ago. It's an astounding no. AI companies will continue pushing for more investment and more hype, not to actually save lives, but to create AI models to take over the market and collect the profits. Also, let's take them at their highest ground, meaning we take everything as true. Let's say that AI does help create cures. This is not nearly as pressing as air pollution that is set to impact people within just 4 years. They have never told you which disease, which problem that they're trying so desperately to solve. Companies can just wait out the moratorium. Remember, they try to help 73,000 people, but we're trying to help 13 million within just a few years. Second, would companies really offshore? We also say it's no. It's not as if the moratorium bans construction forever, it's just a few years. CEOs would rather wait it out and not risk losing connection and capital over something that they wouldn't even want to do. Third, and most importantly, and all 9 people in this Zoom call here recognize this. At the end of the day, what happens to rural Americans when you affirm? The biggest issue is rising prices, which is a deciding factor. If their evidence is from UC Berkeley, ours is from the Federal Reserve and UNC. It is very, very logical that more energy demand means less energy to go around to normal people, meaning companies cannot just give it away for free. That means price spikes of hundreds. That means price spikes by hundreds of dollars every month, and that outweighs any new jobs. At the end of the day, ask yourself, is it worth dying for new jobs or to help an industry that doesn't need help? Remember, people are dying for real from air pollution and being shoved under the poverty line due to electricity prices. Thus, it is clear that you have to affirm. All right, great round, everyone. Yeah,
Great.
great round. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Judge.
Right.
Thank you, judges.
Thank you.
Great round, guys.
Great
Yeah,
debate.
that was
Nice
awesome.
to have you all.